Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Create with Franz today with Damon Cart, all the way from California. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about dating and the many dating mistakes that we do. Actually, before we even get to date, we cannot get to date because we are making so many mistakes. And that's what Damon is going to talk about. He is a California based NLP trainer, and this is a neuro linguistic programming. And as you might know, he has a very good YouTube channel and some courses and groups where he teaches you how to use NLP to really get your life going. So, Damon, up to you now. Let's start to see what are the problems that we encounter when we are try to date, whether we're 20, 30, 40, or even older.
Mhm.
What's the first issue that you encounter as you analyze them using everything through the filter of NLP?
Well, I should probably pre-frame this a little bit as well for those listening. NLP has a often bad reputation when it comes to things that involve persuasion, and dating is one of them. There's a very popular person who made has a notorious reputation for that. And that was actually how I was introduced to NLP. And a lot of men are introduced to NLP and coming from that direction. So it is kind of a polarizing and controversial topic when you take dating and you pair it with NLP. So uh, the listener can be the judge, though. I think, like anything that is powerful, it comes with responsibility. And yes, there's always people who can misuse and abuse these things. Also, I have a lot of practice in this area because I found myself in divorced, well, splitting with along my partner of many years at the age of 36, and at 37 started dating again, and I was really scared. And I wasn't even that bad at dating early in my life, but here I am, 37, haven't dated in 15 years, and having to try to figure it out at an older age. So I started looking into what the pickup artists were doing and started watching videos on YouTube to see what the general feel was, and then also incorporating NLP because I didn't know what to do right away. And then also online dating was something I had never done before because it wasn't popular whenever I was single before I had been married.
Mm.
And quickly found out that online dating for men is not doesn't work very well because it's just math. There's like 70% of men on the dating app and 30% women. So the odds are going to be really difficult for you unless you are a model or you're famous, or you're just stunningly handsome. It's not going to go too well for you most of the time. So I wanted to find a way to sort of break through the odds, and that brings me to my first thing. And this is not as much as people avoiding dating you as you never even walking out the front door, so to speak. And that is if you do not approach. If you don't approach, it's like trying to sell, you set up a business in the desert where there's nobody, and then you complain about there not being sales. Well, that's just not how it's going to happen. So if you're trying to do the online dating thing, it feels safe, but you're not having the choice that you want. You're not finding people who you're really attracted to, who you really like. You can really even that score as a man, and I'm mostly coming from the perspective of a man because I am one. I don't know as well the frustrations that women have on the other side, and but I think the next four will probably apply to women as well. But that first thing is just you learn how to walk up to someone you find attractive, say hello, tell the person, give her a compliment because you don't want her wondering why you're there. And that happens a lot with men. They will go and they'll start a conversation, and the woman's kind of going, okay, does he like me? Is he really wanting to directions to the grocery store? Because that's guys will use a ruse or something like that to start a conversation. And
Mm.
all it does is create a lot of confusion. And so if you don't state what your intent is right away, she's left wondering what's going on here. And people don't make choices when they're confused. They don't commit to anything when they're confused. If you can, like in sales, if you confuse someone, they're not going to buy anything from you. So start off just by approaching, giving them a compliment that lets you know, that lets them know why you're there, why you want to, why you're approaching them,
Mm-hmm.
and just learn how to have a conversation with someone. I think that people are always wanting to have confidence before they do anything. And it's like, no, the confidence comes when you become competent at something. So yes, you're going to go and approach. It's going to feel really awkward. It's going to feel very uncomfortable. And you just learn to stand in that uncomfortableness. And what you'll find out very quickly is that as long as you're positive, as long as you're not mean or harassing, which, you know, a lot of people, I don't know many people who would actually do that, approach someone and be that way. But if as long as you're being positive and you're complimenting, most women will appreciate that very much, even if she's not interested. So the guy will walk away and then be like, wow, you know, that was really good. And the woman will walk away saying, wow, that was a really positive thing. Like, you know, a woman's going about her day. It's very routine. She's probably rather bored. And then you come and disrupt that, but you do it in a very positive way and give her a compliment. She's going to like that. That's going to make her day. And even if she has a boyfriend, she'll probably just say that, hey, well, I have a boyfriend, but thank you. And you both move on. So that's pretty much the worst that happens. But so many people are afraid to just do that. And you don't need to be. But if you don't get out there and you don't actually start having conversations with people and start meeting people, you're not going to get any dates. It's just how things work. So you have to put yourself out there. And
So, yeah, good
yeah, and
point.
fortune favors the bold. So get out there and do that.
So fear and lack of action, lack of self-confidence, and lack of practice.
Well, I
That's
wouldn't say lack of self-confidence. I would say never let lack of self-confidence get in the way of doing anything. And in fact, it's completely backwards to think that you're going to have confidence in doing something that you've never done before or that you haven't done a lot of.
yeah.
So, you know, if you encountered someone who had just started med school, but they wanted to operate on you, and they were very confident about it. Would you do it? Well, no. Like that would be crazy. Or a pilot who had only had one lesson flying an airplane and then, you know, wants to fly around the world and is inviting you along and they're very confident that they can do it. I would not do that. So this idea of you have to have confidence first, or you're putting the cart before the horse. You gain confidence because you gain competence. So when you become good at something, when you're used to something, when you feel a lot more certainty about it, then you can be confident about it. The first time you drove a car, you weren't very confident about it, nor should you be. You want to be very careful, very cautious. Now, the more you do it, you gain more competence, you become more confident at it. Same thing goes when putting yourself out there and meeting people. It'll get easier the more you do it. So don't ever let lack of confidence stop you.
So does that work with women as well? So if I want to approach a man, what
Mhm.
is the main issue that where they tend to fail?
I think it is. So the reason why I say this is more geared toward men is because I don't know many women who will approach. But I think that's changing. And I did create a dating program of how to overcome approach anxiety. And I was really surprised how many women bought it. So apparently things are changing. And I think that's great. If a I don't I think I've maybe been approached one or two times in my entire life by a woman. But I thought that that was incredibly confident or incredibly attractive of a woman to do that. Um, so as long as you're not coming off as desperate or needy, which is my second thing, my second mistake, I think men will respect women very much, even if they're not interested. It's the same thing whenever a man approaches. As long as you're positive, as long as you're saying nice things, and you're making your intentions clear right from the start, so there's no confusion. I think this would work very well for women, and the world is changing, so I think it's much more acceptable to do that. I think for a lot of women, they think that it comes off as being desperate. It doesn't have to. If you walk up to a man and say, "Hey, I found you very attractive, and I wanted to meet you," that's not desperate. Um, Desperate would be you make up something, some story as to why you can start the conversation, and then you meander, and then the guy kind of picks up on like, okay, she's attracted to me, but doesn't want to say it, and then that just is going to feel weird and awkward and possibly desperate and needy. So yeah, I think it works. It would work for women as well. You might you I think for a woman doing it with a man, give him time to get over his surprise because it just doesn't happen to us very often for most men. So it might take him 2 minutes to, yeah, kind of calm down and be like, okay, this is actually happening and this isn't a joke. He might actually think it's a joke first because it's pretty rare. Yeah.
Yes, because I think that everyone hates to be rejected. That's the fear of rejection is a massive thing, so
Hmm.
people will find it really difficult. It's probably easier maybe if you are working together, collaborating at the same project, maybe in a corporate place or in a small, maybe store. When you know the person, you talk all the time anyway. So then you might be able to get better. But what if you really, really like your boss, that far away, distant person?
Hmm. Well, then there could be a conflict of interest on that. It kind of depends on how strict the rules are there because a lot of corporations, you're not allowed, supervisors or superiors are not allowed to date the people underneath them. So they might run into some problems there. I find that actually, well, I'm married now, so I'm not in a dating game anymore, but I found that more awkward. I found it more awkward than just approaching strangers, say strangers, people who I didn't know. Um, I think a lot of times, people, yeah, their pool of people to choose from are only people that they already know or acquaintances. And that can be very limiting. For me, it was very limiting because at the time that I was getting a divorce, I owned my own business and I wasn't going to date my employees. I wasn't going to date my clients. So that was cut off from me. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do here? And it's like, I don't have much of a choice but to start approaching in order to
Mm.
have the kind of choice that I wanted in dating and not be also stuck with poor results on online dating. There was something else you said that I wanted to say something about, but I forgot what it was. Anyway, maybe it'll come back to me. Now the second thing is desperation and neediness, and that will definitely repel people if you come off as, oh, it was the fear of rejection. I think that works in well with this. So in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, the middle word is linguistic. So we really take a look at what uh, the words people are using and what they mean, and when we use them, what representations that creates inside of us to as a reference to. So when you say rejection, technically speaking, that is a noun. The word rejection is a noun, but
Mm.
rejection isn't really a thing. You cannot put it in a wheelbarrow and walk it across a yard. You cannot pick it up and put it in your pocket. So it's not actually a thing, but in our minds, when we say the word rejection, it sounds like a thing. And so what does it really mean for someone to reject you? Do you turn into dust? Are you somehow physically transformed and the next morning you wake up and you're a different person? No, none of that actually happens. So rejection sounds like this thing that's happening to you. When someone rejects you, that's now back into an adjective. So rejection is a nominalization, an action that has been turned into a noun. When we put the action back into it, it's rejecting. And then we can ask the question, who or what is being
Mm.
rejected? And so if you walk up to someone and they turn you down, nothing's really happened. You're still the same person. None of your value or your worth has changed. They just said, I'm not interested. So how many times have you not been interested in something? A lot. If somebody's trying to sell you something and you can see the value in the product, but just not for you because it doesn't solve a problem for you. It wouldn't add value to you. What are you going to say? I'm not interested. Now, did you
Mm.
feel like you rejected that person? Well, no, we just say, I'm not interested. It's not a big deal. So I think when you think about that, this idea of, oh, I might be rejected, that's what causes us to feel rather needy and desperate, like, oh, I can't let this happen. I can't let this person reject me. So the first thing is to not even approach. Then you're safe, right? Because then you never have to put yourself in that situation where you might be rejected. But what if you do approach and you do get that first date and you're like, okay, things are going okay. I got to make sure that I don't get rejected. You're going to start coming off as desperate and very needy. And you're often, when people feel that way, they often start asking, like, they want feedback right away, like, how am I doing on this date? Or do you like me? Do you find me attractive? And if you start saying those kinds of things, you're going to come off as very needy. And what that will make the other person feel like is, am I going to, if I invest in this as a relationship, if I invest in this as even another date,
Mhm.
is it worth it for me that I have to keep telling this person, no, everything's fine, everything's good, or I find you attractive, and on and on and on. And then it also just makes it seem like the person, yeah, that kind of lack of confidence is very unattractive. But if you can just sit in a situation, and even if you don't feel confident, and just accept that, like, I don't feel confident right now, and just be okay with that, just allow yourself to be okay with that, you're not going to come off as needy or desperate. You just accept what's happening, and that's okay. And things will get better. And it's amazing too when you can have that kind of awkwardness and even nervousness, and some people actually find that attractive. They go, oh, okay, well, I don't want somebody who's a player, who's puffing out their chest and acting like they're so, arrogant and everything. And that's, by the way, not real confidence either. That's a person who's very insecure, who's pretending to be confident. So that comes off as desperate and needy as well. So if you can just accept the awkwardness, accept that maybe even you're nervous and you lack confidence, but you can just be okay with it in the moment, that again will come off as rather attractive that you can do that. So that's how I would say to overcome the desperation, the neediness, and to not even entertain this idea of rejection. It's either the person is interested in you or they are not. You are still the same person. You will still be fine. You haven't lost anything. Go on with your life. And if you look at it that way, then rejection isn't scary.
That's a very good approach. And also, if I may add something here, if you come out to be quite needy and clinging and cling as a person that needs reassurance all the time, you might be attracting still somebody, but those kind of abusive people, toxic people,
Mm,
even narcissistic behavior, with a lot of attention here to the label that we are seeming to attach to everyone. But
mm,
narcissistic people, they give you a lot of attention, love bombing, they make you feel like you're amazing. And then once you are in a codependent relationship, will start destroying you even more, and you will be in therapy for years, depending on how good is your therapy as well. But so it's important to really believe that we are good enough before we go out to find somebody, because we had to be as good as we want the other person to be. So if we think we are a failure, how are we going to be approaching anyone? Because we think we're a failure. So
mm,
we have to restart with a positive mindset and think, well, I'm not perfect. We're not looking for a perfect person, but we accept that we might not like one another. That's okay. I'll move on to somebody else. There are millions of people in the world. That's a great point.
mm,
So let's say that you are in midlife, 50 plus. That's different and probably hard for you to conceive. I'm 59, so, and I
mm,
got married last month again. So it is got married at 30, then got married again 59. So it's a different time. And people are way more confident at this age because they've been through a lot. They don't really care much. And they'll
mm,
tell you straight off what we think. It's much easier for that. But since there had to be more strategies there when we are talking and expressing ourselves, what is that will come across more useful in a conversation among mature people? So we might have divorce, we might have abandonment, we might be widows or widowers, we might have
mm.
children on drugs, we might have chronic disease in the family, we might have a lot of challenges. So how do we put across our life and our luggage, because everyone over 40 will have a luggage? How do we put it across in a conversation before killing off any possibility of having a second conversation, in your opinion?
That's an interesting question because when I was so my ex-wife is 10 years older than me, and when we were splitting, and I would say I didn't really start dating again until I was 37. We were splitting it when I was 36. So I was 37 years old, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just date women my own age, and that will feel like I'm actually dating younger because I was in a marriage with someone 10 years older.
Mhm.
And I couldn't believe how much baggage and resentment these women were carrying around who were only 37. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I have two kids. I have two kids, my previous marriage.
Mm.
And so I know what it's like to have kids and to be living outside of the home. Even though I live close by, I was still not with them anymore on a regular basis. And the pain of a divorce and the pain of starting over again. So I knew all of the pain that they were carrying around, but it had turned into resentment for so many of them. And I was at a loss. I was just like, I can't deal with this. So the way that I felt was, yeah, I get a second chance. I can start I'm starting all over again. And even though I had all that pain from the divorce and from not being with my kids, waking up in the morning and being there for them and putting them to bed at night, um, I walked away from that pain thinking to myself, I got this awesome second chance to really live a life and find a partner who I can spend the rest of my life with. And I'm not in any rush to find that person, but I'm certainly going to enjoy myself in the search for that person and just have fun with this. So I was really pretty light, and which was very different for me because I used to be a very intense person. And so I was having fun, or I wanted to have fun. And then here I was encountering people my age who didn't have any other bigger things to complain about than me, but were so resentful and so like wanting security right away. And it's like, this is the first date. Like, I don't know what you think you're going to get as far as security out of this or any guarantees,
Yeah.
but that's what it seemed like that they wanted. And so what I started doing is I started dating younger. And the younger I went, the less resentment they had because they just had, I guess, less mileage and wear and tear, so to speak. And I eventually met my wife. I was 40 at the time, and she was 20. And I just thought there was no way this thing was going to work. But it ended up working, and that's another story for another time, I guess. Um, so I think no matter where your life is right now, and this is something I see in older people. Like so I'm 46 now, and so I still see this and older people, older, when I say older than me, is that they've made a choice. Either life is terrible, there's a lot of bad things that happen to me, and I have my resentments, and there's no way I'm letting those go because for some reason that makes them feel like they have some sort of sense of identity. And then
Mm,
there's the other people who make a different decision and they say, you know what? I've been through all this stuff. I have a good understanding of what life is like and how bad it can be, and I'm just going to look for the good stuff. I'm going to accept the bad stuff, but I'm going to look for the good stuff, and I'm just going to enjoy my life as much as I can because it's half over or more than half over. And so, what have I got to lose at this point? And I have nothing to
mm,
prove. So it's just let's enjoy life. And I certainly made that second, the latter decision. And I don't see many people in between. In between, when we hit midlife, I see people seem to kind of make a choice on that. And I would say it's not worth carrying around resentment and thinking that that's going to help anything. All you're going to do is repel people,
mm,
and your predictions or prophecies about life and the world and all that tend to be self-fulfilling when you come from that attitude.
mhm. It's a great comment. And also, I would like to specify and add sometimes we do carry a luggage because our, in my case, husbands, they have caused so much trouble, which caused us to have to divorce. Although we wanted the security, we wanted the family, so we had to go. So, for example, the porn addiction is one of the main reasons for divorce because also become sex addiction. And
Mhm.
sometimes it lands your partner in a prison. And other times, there are husbands that are cheating. So the wife is left with all these kids to look after, and now she has
Mhm.
to go back to work. She is going to be resentful. She's going to be looking for security. And of course, you cannot get that from a first date. She's going to
Mhm.
have to let go of some. But unfortunately, a large proportion of women end up with a toxic ex who relentlessly keeps harassing them after the divorce for many years. So they're not healed and they're not ready to date. Despite that, they're going to dating, they marry very quickly, and then they're divorcing because they actually do not know the person they married. They go
Mhm.
back to the same without the healing, without deciding what is their purpose, what is their direction, what they actually want from a man.
Yeah, I think coming if you know that you're in that resentful place, A lot of people don't admit that to themselves. They say, well, no, this person did this to me and therefore they have to pay. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to argue with that, what's fair and what's not. It's if you're feeling resentful, this is not a position to be in a relationship in or start a relationship. I think you
Yes.
can actually still go out and have fun though. You can still say, I have these resentments and I'm going to hold off on getting into a long-term relationship, but I want to go out there and date. I want to meet people. And I think that's a great way to get over that resentment. Something similar happened to me was, so my previous marriage did get toxic. And I had a rebound relationship right after we split. And at first, the woman who I was having a rebound relationship with didn't seem anything like my ex. And then gradually, little by little, there was a lot of similarities and a lot of that sort of toxic stuff started coming up again. And it was very passive aggressive. That was a strategy, and it was very effective on me because I didn't see it up front. And then before I knew it, I was pulled into it. Yeah.
Back again,
And
back again.
yeah, and so and then once I had enough with her, I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And then I started dating someone else, and we weren't like in a relationship yet, but I then all the same signs started coming, and so I started seeing this more and more, where like all this passive aggressive behavior toward me, and so had a choice to make. I thought, okay, I can either think that all women are like this because this has been my experience time and time again, or maybe there's something I'm putting out there that is attracting this type of woman. Maybe that most women are in fact not like this, but there's something I'm putting out there. I bear some responsibility here that is attracting this kind of woman. And so I decided to go with the second choice, that I want to find out what is it that I'm doing that's attracting this kind of woman. And I promised myself that I was not going to get into a relationship for the first year. I was just going to date. And so as I was dating and really enjoying it, getting to meet a lot of people and having fun, there was one person who I was dating more and more consistently as that year was rounding out. And I hadn't seen any signs from her. And I thought, okay, well, once the year ends, I'm probably going to go ahead and get into a relationship with her. And then right towards the end, it came out. And all this sort of passive aggressive behavior started coming out from her. And I realized she was not who she had represented herself to be. And I was thinking to myself, wow, it's really good that I stuck to that 1 year. Because if I had broke my own rules and got into a relationship with her, yeah, I would have been right back in the thick of it.
Oh my
And
God.
then once that happened, I told myself, okay, I'm going to give myself another year. Obviously, I haven't fully figured this out. And after another year, then I could see it from a mile away. If that type of woman was coming near me, I knew what I knew what to put out there to repel her, which was basically, and this is what scares all passive aggressive people, is if you call them out and you tell them you know what they're doing. That's the last thing a passive aggressive person wants, because their whole strategy is based in passive aggressiveness. They want you to feel it, but they don't want you to know that it's coming from them. And so that I would just directly tell it to them, and then these women all disappeared. And when that happened, I got to who were not like that, who were not toxic. And eventually, like I said, I led me to meeting my current wife, who's nothing like that. So,
Very good. You took your time, and that's
mhm,
always my suggestion when I'm in singles groups or when I'm now married. And I always say, don't rush into another relationship. First, get to know who you are, what do you want from a
mhm,
partner, and what do you want from yourself. Because a lot of times we have lost purpose and mission when we got mixed up in this relationship and
mhm,
or in toxic in relationships. Then heal from whatever is going on. You have to heal. If you're not healed, don't go anywhere.
mhm,
And then give it time, because most people will reveal themselves between 9 and 18 months, because they can't really fake it for too long to
right.
be whatever. Because we have ideals. We always say, oh, I love nature and I love healthy eating. Then I go home and I eat marshmallows the whole days.
Mhm,
Yes, I love nature and healthy eating, but I'm eating chemicals laden in sugar. That's okay. But then why am I saying that? So we might have really high ideals, but it's very difficult to keep them up. Maybe we expect those ideals to be upheld by other people. That's fine,
mhm,
but we're not. And that only comes out after we are in many different situations with a person. So it's not just
mhm,
talking and talking, but seeing the reality. So when we are talking, it's a good idea to record ourselves and write down, what are we talking about? what kind of gifts and skills and abilities we're talking about. Are they the one that we have, or the one that we wish we had? And sometimes people believe we are amazing, and actually we're just normal humans, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the other person is fine with that aspect of their personality. So time helps. I'm not saying to all do like me, 5 years together before we got married. So we really knew one another. But
No.
it's important to really look for those, as you know, little signs that tell you this is not the person for you, because you couldn't cope with that kind of behavior. So
Yeah, look for inconsistencies and incongruence, where the person says one thing but they do something
do
different.
another.
And
Yeah.
then especially it gets worse if they then tell you that no, you're wrong. That's when the gaslighting starts, where they say, no, I actually didn't do that. You think that I did that, or you're lying. That's when you know, run, get out of there. That's not going to be good. I would also say that if you feel like you keep attracting the same kind of toxic person every time you're dating, take responsibility for that. There's probably something you're putting out there that's attracting that kind of person. It doesn't mean it's like you're the problem or you're at fault. It just means for me, I was putting a vulnerability out there that I thought was like, okay, I'm just being honest. I'm putting my vulnerabilities out there. But for the wrong person seeing that, they saw weakness and I can control him and manipulate him. And so that's what they tried. And then once I realized that, it's like, okay, I'm not putting that vulnerability out until I get to know the person. And once I know that they're not going to do that to me, then I'll be vulnerable with them.
Yeah. That's a very good closing comment. Don't just show up with everything on day one. Just take your time and be natural and organic. Maybe do fun things together, but don't go straight into kissing, straight into hugging, straight into sexual relationship. You're going fast and then you're talking about everything and you dump all your problem there. And then the other person goes, oh my gosh, or they might even take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's a low point maybe, but I think we have a lot of control of our words, but we have to see where is the connection, the organic connection between what we are thinking, what we are saying, and what we're doing. When these three are in harmony, we are more complete and we give a better idea of who we are and what we want to another person. So thank you so much, Damon. It was so great. I learned a lot, and I'm sure that the audience has learned quite a lot from you as well, because we always stand back and say, oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. So thank you so much for
Do
being
you
with
want me
us.
to run through the other three things real quick or?
Yeah, we have 2 minutes literally because I'm running late. So
Okay. Well,
a
the other
few
three
more.
things. The third one would be talking too much about yourself. You definitely want to share at times, but just know that while you're busy talking, you're not busy
Mhm.
getting to know the other person. And if you're always talking, even if you're very interesting, things are off balance. The other person's not getting a chance to share. So that leads to the fourth one, not showing enough interest in the other person. You want to show that you actually are interested in that person and not just in their looks. And then anytime if you're the fifth thing would be sounding judgmental or critical, even if you're focusing that judgment and criticism on other people and not the date you're with, she's still going to think, oh, well, this is how he thinks. And then if I do something he doesn't like, this is how he's going to think about me. He's going to judge me and he's going to be critical. Those things, all three of those things will repel you or repel dates from wanting a second date for sure.
Well, obviously, yeah, that will be quite interesting. You're out with it and criticizing everyone.
Mm.
We are really shooting down yourself.
But a lot of people do that to make themselves look elevated in the other person's eyes. They think that they're like building themselves up, and it's like, no, you're making this person afraid of you is what you're doing.
Yeah, that is so true. And we could delve a lot in this, but yeah, the episode lasts 30 minutes. There is a reason. It's called the attention span of a YouTube people. 3 minutes, 17 seconds. So hopefully this was good for you guys to get started on your new dating plan. So being nice and clear about your expectations and connect your thoughts, your reactions, your emotions to what you're actually doing and what you're saying. So you give the whole idea of who you are and attract a healthy person that is good for you. Is that correct? Did I say this right?
I think so.
Excellent. Well, as I said, I'm really glad you came here, Damon. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will be putting all the links of all your YouTube and whatever else we have so that people can come and see you, even do some NLP with you and learn with your groups and your videos so much more than just dating, all the interpersonal skills. So thank you again. And I hope you guys will share and like this episode, and maybe subscribe to both our channels. So I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.